Train. Jump on the Steve Train. We real estate disruptors.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Real Estate Disruptors. So we've got Isabelle Guarino Smith with Residential Assisted Living Academy. And Isabelle is another operator in the Phoenix market. And we're going to talk about how to generate more revenue than a 50-unit apartment building with one single family home. Now, I am on a mission to create 100 millionaires, and the information on this podcast alone is enough to help you become a millionaire in the next 5 to 7 years. If you'll take consistent action, you will become one. Now, one thing that we've been doing a lot of recently, myself and some of my peers, is having private conversations, talking about how to navigate this market. And something we've never offered before, but we're starting to offer now, is a diagnostic call. So if you want to discuss where exactly you're in your business today, where you want to be in the future, and some of the challenges that you're facing that's preventing you from getting there, let's schedule a call. Now, this call is not cheap. It's not free. But if you want, at the end, we'll help you gain clarity, and we're going to point you in the direction. It's possible that one of those directions is one of my products. So I want to be totally transparent here. But if that's something you think might be valuable to you, go to stevetrangdiagnostic.com. And this show is brought to you by our sister company, InvestorLift. Get access to 2 million cash buyers across the country. Go to investorlift.com, put in disruptors to get 10% off. And if you get value today, all I ask, you just tag a friend below, share this episode right now. That way we can all grow together. And this is a live show, so please ask your questions for Isabelle to answer. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So first question is, what got you into real estate?
Well, it actually started with something very close to home. So my grandmother fell, broke her hip, needed 24/7 care. The doctor said she can't go home alone. She needs, help with her activities of daily living. My dad had been a real estate investor for 40 years, but when this happened, he was like, okay, what do we do? Do we quit our jobs and take care of her full time? Do we give her in-home care, which can be incredibly expensive, or do we put her into a facility? And it just felt so icky, so wrong. Like, many people face this, and it's just like, oh, it's my beloved mom, my beloved grandmother, So he kind of stumbled into residential assisted living. He found a home and realized really quick, wait, I'm going to pay $5,000 a month for her to live there, or I could own this and be cash flowing $10,000, and she could live for free.
Yeah.
So he purchased his first one. I was a flight attendant at the time, actually. I had graduated college.
So he looked into this, saw it was going to be $5,000.
Yeah.
And instead of how most people, I imagine 99+% or more, look at this as like, crap, I need to come with $5,000.
Yeah.
He immediately saw opportunity.
Immediate opportunity.
Okay.
Yes. Combining his knowledge of real estate with saying, I have no idea what I'm doing in this field, but I'm going to leverage other people's knowledge and insight to make this happen.
Right.
Purchased his first one, got into it. I saw what he was doing. I was a flight attendant making no money, but having a lot of fun, and started to slowly be like, Dad, why are you so happy? Why are you hanging out with old people? What's going on? Because I'd watched him be a real estate investor for 40 years, and there's a lot of ups and downs in that, tenants, toilets, drama, unpaid rent. And he was super happy, seemingly had more money than ever. And it was like, what's going on? So I just started forcing my way into his office, learning things, overhearing him. And then eventually I was like, hire me. I want to work for you.
So I'm going to ask some personal questions here.
Yeah.
So how long ago was this?
This was about 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
And about how old were you?
I'm 31 now, so early 20s.
Okay. And I'm asking this question because one of the things that happens, and I'm guilty of this as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur. I love what I'm doing. And I'm hopeful, but not requiring my kids get involved in the business.
Yes.
So prior to this,
Yeah.
was your dad trying to drag you into the real estate business?
Never.
He never tried to drag you into it?
Never. He was
Okay.
very much make your own path, do what makes you happy, choose what's for you.
Okay. So then it was just curiosity.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Something's different with dad.
100%.
So I've met your dad.
Yes.
And he seems like a very jovial person.
Yes.
Very happy.
Yes.
So he was not always as happy.
I mean, I think that he is, our nickname at home for him was Mr. Positive. He was always very happy, but I think I just saw it wear on him. Being a real estate investor is not always the easiest thing in the world.
No, especially this exact moment.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it just wears on you. And so I think we just saw a lot of that, and just him being an entrepreneur for so long, and there's highs and there's lows. And then it just felt like this is something different. It just felt like something was different. So he never asked me or any of my siblings to be involved with this. I literally just started walking into his office every morning saying, how can I help? And eventually being like, you should hire me.
Right. Okay. So you just kind of forced your way in there.
I forced my way in. I ended up being his first employee. And at that point, he had purchased 2 more properties, turned them into residential assisted living homes. And he just really started teaching me the lay of the land through osmosis, through just being near him. It's not like he ever sat down and told me step by step, this is what you're going to do. I just learned it through conversation, through hearing things, through being in his email and poking around. And then all of his friends in real estate started being like, can you tell me what you're doing? Can you start teaching and training on this? And he was a wonderful educator. So it just naturally started to be like, okay, I'm going to start training on this. And then the birth of Residential Assisted Living Academy grew from there.
So you were involved after he bought his first one.
After his first, yeah.
So were you there as part of the process of like, what were some of the challenges and the nightmares and stuff like that?
Oh, yes, because the first one was an existing business. So there's kind of 4 ways you can get into it. And one of them is buying an existing residential assisted living. So he purchased the real estate and the business. And there's a lot of drama with that, right? Because there's already staff there and they're already set up to be working with a different owner. And now what if they don't like the way you want to operate it, and now everyone quits on you or something like that. So there was a lot of learning curves. Also, he had no idea what he was doing in this. No one was teaching on it. No one was training. So he was just learning through trial and error. So I watched a lot of that. And then when he had bought his next 2, a different way to do it is buy a single family home and convert it to become. That's what he did with the next 2. And I was part of those processes. So
what were some of like the biggest challenges or nightmares that you recall from the very first one?
Oh, I think staffing. I think families. There's always family drama in any business. It's people who are
your family
issue.
drama or
No.
other people's family drama?
No, the seniors living in the home, their
Got it.
families, just because it's a shift, it's a change. So maybe we're saying, hey, we want to renovate this home. It's a fully running business, but the home needs some updates. So when one person passes, okay, we're going to renovate that one room, until we get another person in. Well, some people might be like, oh, you can't renovate this house. My mom's living here and the dust. And it's like, we're not doing her room. We're doing one room at a time. We're trying to be as safe and conscious as possible, but we want to elevate this. We want it to be a nice home for you. So people is always the drama in any business, right?
Yeah. There's something I've said before and people, think I'm really jaded. Possibly I am. It's like, I love everything about real estate except for houses and people, right? Like we could just eliminate those 2 things. Like real estate would be really easy.
Yeah.
So the family drama from
Yeah.
you consider them patients or clients?
Residents.
Yes. So the residents, their family.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily the resident themselves that were causing grief.
No.
But someone coming in to look out for them for their best interest is causing excessive drama.
Yeah, maybe a little drama there. And then the caregivers, just a shift in management, people wanting to run it differently. Like, hey, no, you're not going to be texting in the corner. Like, we're putting cameras in this house and we're watching you and you're going to do it right.
So there's more supervision.
And just being more hands-on and saying like, this is the standard. We want to run these homes and step up or step out because we're building a new culture here.
Yeah. And I'm kind of thinking, I can't remember which Adam Sandler movie this is, right? But it's the one with Ben Stiller and like he's like the evil like resident nurse.
Oh yes! Oh my gosh! I know exactly. They're making the quilts in the sweatshop.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of that movie. But,
yeah.
Okay, so that was the first one.
Yep.
And then the second and third one, you guys did it differently because you guys not like buying an existing one anymore.
We just wanted to go a different route because of buying an existing is a really great way to get into this because it's one of the faster, easier ways. You're paying for speed. Someone else has done a lot of the legwork for you, but we wanted to try a different route of buying a single family home and then converting it to become a residential assisted living. So we tried that route next with the next 2 homes.
And how was that?
I think easier because you get to control the look and the feel of the property. You're hiring the people. You're not having to break systems or a way that things have been done and recreate stuff. So for us, I think we really liked that because we had a very strong what we wanted to see and the culture we wanted to create and the environment we wanted for those seniors. And we were very set on that. So it wasn't like it was a lot easier, I think, to do that and be able to create the home the way you want it.
Got it. So before we get into like the specifics here, like what kind of revenue are we talking about? Because we put a pretty bold line, like and I'm all about creating clickbait headlines. I know, I apologize, people that are watching, but that's what works with algorithms. So so like what kind of revenue are we really talking about if someone's like doing maybe their first one?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to give a low end and then a high end, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So average rates in America today is $4,500 a month to live in an assisted living home.
Per resident.
Per resident. Yep. $4,500. So depending on where you live in the country, that totally varies, but that's average rates. You're allowed to have anywhere between 6 and 16 residents in the home. So when I say single family, a lot of people think a 3-bed, 2-bath.
Right.
Yes, that's a single family, but also a 7-bed, 5-bath is also a single family. So we have to think differently when I'm saying that word, right?
Right.
So in Arizona, we're allowed to have 10 residents in a home. So our homes, other than the one we purchased, but the other two, they didn't start that way. We had to convert them to become 10-bedroom, 10-bath homes. But in that case, 4,500 times 10 seniors, 45,000 coming in gross.
So 10 bedrooms, 10 baths, so they all have their own bathrooms.
One of the homes has 9 bathrooms and one has 10. So yes.
Okay.
The more private you can do, the more you can get per
it's a
resident.
premium.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, so 45 coming in. Your expenses are pretty high because this is 24/7 for these senior medication management, 3 meals a day, 24/7 caregivers on staff, activities, food, cable, internet, everything. So let's call it
because each one has like their own TV and their own cable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We're giving them everything and anything that they want. They're paying a heavy fee to live in the home. They should really be living out their golden years in the best way possible. So let's say 30 grand in expenses, and then your debt service or mortgage maybe 5,000, right? In most parts of the country, you can still get a pretty nice home for $5 grand a month. That's giving you $10,000 on that home every single month, take home as the owner. That's after you've paid all your expenses, everything.
Including the caregivers.
Correct.
The utilities.
Yep.
So we're talking net.
Even vacancies, everything baked into that. Yeah, net. So that's kind of your average home. In certain states, Texas, Ohio, Illinois, you're allowed to have 16 residents in a home. And what we teach in our training is to never do average, do above average. So if 4,500 is the average, we have plenty of students all across the country who are getting $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month per resident because their homes are very luxurious.
Is that covered by the family or by the medical, by the government? Like that's a significant sum.
It is typically private pay. It's almost always the seniors using their cash, their IRAs. They sold their home and are using those funds, or their adult children are paying for it, which is also something to consider because a lot of people are not prepared for this. The silver tsunami's coming. The baby boomers are coming. And if you don't have a plan for your loved one, that's pretty scary. Like you got to figure this out. So let's say it's a 16 or a 15 bedroom home for easy math, 7,000 times 15, that's 105,000 coming in gross. But our expenses are going to go up. Maybe they're not 30, maybe they're 50.
Yeah, it's not proportionally going up. It's
going
up, but not by the same ratios.
Correct, because this is a luxury home. Also, there's 5 more residents. So we need to think of more food, more care, more everything, really. So 105 minus 50, and let's say the debt service, this is a 15-bedroom home. Let's say it's 15 grand a month. That's still leaving you with $40,000 take home. So when we say one of these beats a 50-unit apartment, that's what I mean, because each apartment, you're maybe getting, a couple $100, maybe $1,000, but that's not always the take home, right?
That's gross.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it definitely beats it. We have a guy in Jersey who those are exactly his numbers. He's got 15 residents, $7 grand a month. He brings in 40 grand a month.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So this is a different model than, for example, maybe going to buy a franchise.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of my agents yesterday. One of the clients, they have a Mexican fast food chain.
Yeah.
And they make 40, 50 grand a month. I was like, wow, that's a lot of money for just like burritos and stuff. But
It must be good burritos.
I wouldn't go that far. It's a high volume business. But this is just a different direction if you want to, like, I mean, you can't do it at Starbucks, but if you were to do, I think, like maybe Coffee Bean, you can franchise, right?
Yeah.
This would be like buying a franchise. Is there a lot of owner involvement in these, or is this like if you buy like a 7-Eleven franchise,
Yeah.
you're pretty involved.
Yeah.
Right? Is this a situation where you're buying like a convenience store franchise, or this is a situation where you're buying and you're an owner but not an operator?
Okay, so we set it up that you own and operate the real estate and the business, but you're still hiring a licensed administrator, which in real estate world, we'll call that the property manager. It's a medical license that they have through the state, so they can care for the residents, they can do intake with the residents, but typically they're doing like, touring with the families. They might be in charge of filling the beds, the marketing, hiring and firing caregivers, payroll, all sorts of different stuff. They're your hands-on go-to person. So how we teach and train and how we run this is one phone call a week with that person. Of course, they can call in emergencies.
Oh, yeah.
But one set phone call a week. And then I try to only visit the homes like every other month. I don't want to be hands-on. I don't want to be working there. There are plenty of people who do this hands-on. And you absolutely can, but you also don't have to. And that's how I like to teach, to set it up as more of a pactive, right? Passive and active, but a little bit. I don't want to say it's completely passive because it's not,
Yeah. Well, it's just like having a rental.
Yeah.
It's passive, but is it?
But is it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. So then let's say, we're in the same market. I think you're in Gilbert, right?
Yeah.
Right. I'm in Chandler. So, I call you. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm sold. Let's do this.
Yep.
I guess the first question is, before I get into all the other questions, if we're talking this kind of cash flow,
Yeah.
you don't have to buy the house at a discount.
Nope.
Like, really, you can just pick off any house off the MLS as long as it checks the boxes.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So I'm sold. I'm ready to go. What's the first thing I do?
Well, as far as location for that home, that's going to be your biggest thing to look for. And when I say location, the big thing I mean is the demographics. So we want to be where the 50 to 70-year-olds who are upper middle class, who make twice the median income.
So like around here, Scottsdale or Paradise Valley.
That's pretty much where you want to be located, because that's the daughter Judy, right? The adult child who's paying for mom or dad to live in your home. And she does not want to drive 45 minutes to Glendale just because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
She doesn't. She wants it 5 minutes on her way home from work or the kids or whatever. So location is like the number one thing.
That's an interesting thing, right? Because like not a lot of people think about that, right? They think about the numbers, specific and this and that. But like, yeah, like they want to be able to visit mom when it's convenient. It's not like, how do I put it? It's not like necessarily a planned thing.
Yes.
Right? Or at least if it's in-state. Out of state, of course, you have to plan. But in-state, it's like, I just want to be able to stop by and say hi to mom.
100%.
Okay.
And so I think when you're looking for the property, demographics is key. You want to make sure that there's density in the area. Like, is there going to be growth opportunity here? I always tell people, if a new big box, right, a Brookdale, a Sunrise, Atrium just got built in your market, bingo. You want your home.
Are those the names of like residential assisted living areas?
Big
Retirement?
facilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, like those like commercial ones, hundreds of beds. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't know a Brookdale? You've driven by them 1,000 times. You live in Arizona.
I believe, if I'm being honest, I think I had to go to one of those to get a seller to sign a contract.
Yeah.
I believe that was the circumstance.
It's Arizona, I'm sure. Now you're going to drive by. It's going to be
I'm going to see them everywhere.
Red Corvette syndrome. They're going to be everywhere, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So density, you want to make sure that there's a need in the area. Those big boxes, they're spending millions on internal feasibility studies to determine if this is a good place for it. So if there's a new one coming up, bingo, put yours as close to that as possible.
Yeah.
You also want to make sure that, we have to have people who work in the home. So if we're in a super nice area, but there's no workforce around, that's not going to work either. You have to have that good in between where you have a workforce, but you're also near daughter Judy, and you're still near everything else that you need. This isn't over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. You have to make sure that everything that you need is right around it. So definitely location is key. And then you get into renovating the home, right? So most people want private bedrooms, private bathrooms, like we were saying earlier. the states will require you to have 80 to 100 square feet per person.
Okay.
That is tiny. Like, if for 10 people in a home, that is way too small. We like to say 300 to 500 square feet per person. So minimum with 10 people, a 3,000 square foot home, upwards of 5,000. So having a larger footprint already to start with is nice, because then you have to chop it up less inside. You can do it with multi-level. You've got to add in a chairlift, add in an elevator. In Arizona, we're lucky there's a lot of single-level homes.
Yeah.
But that's not true of everywhere. So I've seen a lot of residential elevators, be put into these homes. We want to make it as senior safe as possible.
Right. And then how many kitchens are there typically in these?
Still one kitchen.
Still one kitchen.
Yep. You want it. I don't want home-like. I want it to be a home. Like, I want them to actually, that's the kitchen. If they want to go get something out of the fridge, go get something out of the fridge.
Right.
Like, this is your home. This is where you live. A communal living room. We have students who have homes that have salons, movie theaters, game rooms, workout rooms. Like, these are luxurious homes, in good parts of town. And you can have those fun amenities, but minimum, you're going to want sitting room, dining room, living room, kitchen, all the regular things.
I'm just trying to picture this because, honestly, I haven't been through a lot of these. Like the ones I've been through are like sober living houses or, where they're taking care of like kids in need, right?
Yeah.
And they have the same setup, but
like shared spaces.
there's a lot of shared spaces, but it's drawn out the same. So there's someone always say, "Oh, this would be great for assisted living." It's like, I have no idea if this would be great for assisted living or not, right? But those are kind of things that are kind of going through my head. That's the reason why I'm asking these questions.
Yeah.
So, all right. So demographics.
Yeah.
Step one.
Yep.
What after that? What after that research? Then what?
So getting the physical home that is best suited for this larger footprint, as many bedrooms and bathrooms as you can already have, finding out your state maximum. Like I said, it's going to fall somewhere between 6 and 16. So once you know that, getting that suitable property, and then really hiring your licensed administrator. That's like your key player. If you want to be hands off in this, then you've got to have somebody really, really strong in that position.
Yeah. One thing I remember a long time ago, earlier part of my career, we were talking to people about, doing assisted living.
Yeah.
And if I recall correctly, the biggest bottleneck was the licensing from the state.
Oh.
Is that
here in Arizona?
In Arizona.
The states all have like ranges of how long. Like California on their website right now says 6 months. But there's still a ton of things you're going to do in those 6 months while you're prepping to get it licensed. So I'm like, that's fine. I've never really seen anything take longer than 6 months. Most states are on like a 3 to 4 month, but there's also ways you can go about that. I am very much a people person, and my dad taught me this. Do not submit it via mail. You get your butt down to the office, you walk it in, you hand it to that person, you bring them some brownies or cookies or a coffee or something, and then you ask them, when can you come over and do the inspection? I'd love you to, you've got one in Chandler next week? I'm in Chandler, come on over.
Right.
And get them to bump you up to the top. When it's mailed in, it's put at the bottom of a pile, they don't know who you are, and, good luck to you. That's when it's taken 6 months. But you can sometimes expedite that process. Not always, but
yeah, it could have just been really bad intel. I could just be remembering entirely wrong, But I believe it was. They made it sound like it was like winning the lottery if you're able to get the permit.
No.
Okay, all right. So, step one, demographic research. Step two, finding a quality licensed administrator. So where do I go about finding one of those?
Yeah, I mean, Indeed, Craigslist, targeted newspapers.
So there's like a lot of them then?
This is a career that exists. Yes. CNAs, HHAs, those are usually people who are also licensed administrators. Every state has different requirements for what you need. It's typically to be 18 or 21 with a GED with this state licensing.
Got it.
So you can even go to community colleges. A lot of community colleges are adding in caregivers and administrator programs and get a list of fresh graduates. Or this is a really tight-knit industry. So talking to other people who are homeowners, operators, or placement agents, geriatric doctors, nurses, elder law attorneys, saying, who do you know who might be looking for a job? Really, word of mouth is a great way to find people as well.
One, I'm thinking, especially in Arizona, we're probably fortunate because this is like the place for older people. One of two places.
There are 3,000 RAL homes in Maricopa County alone.
Yeah.
That's insane. There's only 30,000 in the entire country. and we have 3,000 in one county.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, right? Between Arizona and Florida, we just kind of go back and forth.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So hiring someone, what do I do after that?
So once we get them hired, we really want them to buy into the culture and to, what we're going to be building. Are you going to have one of these homes, or are you looking to scale? Do you want 3, we call it a 3-pack, right? At least 3 of them. Or do you want 10? Do you want 25? Do you want 100? We want them to buy in because they are the face of our business. They're the voice of our business. They're the ones dealing with everything hands-on. So once we get them, it's really getting them to buy in and be a part of that journey with us. So when we're hiring those caregivers, that they're hiring them to the standard that we want.
Right.
That we're going through all of that culture and onboarding with them so that they can really take this and run with it.
So 3 or 10, we're talking about 3 or 10 houses, 3 or 10 residents?
Houses.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking to the licensed administrator and asking them, how many houses do you want to manage?
Basically, most will say between 2 and 4, but we also just want to recruit them. We want to onboard them into our vision. So if your vision is 10 homes, maybe it's recruiting them to say, I want you to manage the first 4, if you're up for it, basically. And then once we get up to 10, I want you to manage the other 3 managers who are going to be overseeing 3 to 4 each. And you're going to be my, my big chief, and getting them involved in that. You're really building a business here. So getting that from the start, getting them bought in so that they see the vision, that they're bought in, and their loyalty will be there because you're automatically presenting them, hey, here's an opportunity with massive room for growth.
Right.
I'm not giving you one job. I'm giving you a long-term career. And what are your goals? How can I help you achieve them? I think that's really important.
All right, onboarding and leading them effectively.
Yep.
Okay, so then you've got them, you've onboarded them.
Yep.
Then what?
They're going to be hiring your caregivers, and you'll be working on getting the physical home licensed. So this is kind of all happening, chicken before the egg,
all in parallel.
simultaneously. It's all happening at the same time. So they're working on building out your staff and marketing for those seniors while you're working on the physical home requirements. It typically doesn't need to be ADA compliant, but you want it as close to that as possible. So we're going to want ramps and guardrails. The fire marshal will come over. He'll give you that stamp of approval for whatever you may need. And then the physical home will get that license on it. So you, as the owner operator, don't have a license. The physical home is a license. The licensed administrator has a license, and the caregivers have a license. But you are just owning and operating all of this together.
Got it. Okay. Anything else after that?
Getting the license, and then it's filling the home with seniors.
How long? I mean, like, you do all these things. The
Yeah.
research, I don't know, a month?
Yeah.
Right? Finding the person, another couple months.
Yep.
How long from starting this process until you have your first resident and then a filled house?
I always tell people, like, as soon as they're in our training and they're committed to doing this, they're like, when should I start marketing? And I'm like, yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we need to get the word out there now. I don't even care if you don't have a property. Start building the brand. Start building that you're coming. Get the community excited that
Build a
you're
pipeline.
coming. Yeah, it's so important. So marketing is everything. And the sooner you start marketing, the easier it will be to fill those beds. When you wait until opening day and say, okay, now I'm going to do an open house and fill it, you're going to have a tough time. It's going to be
Yeah.
a couple months. I do like to bake in at least 6 months to fill the home once you're up and running. But if you're doing your pre-marketing, you might have 3 people moving in day 1,
Right.
and so that makes it a lot easier because getting that first resident is always the hardest. No one wants to be the first one to move in.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So then, how much would it cost? Right, I'm doing this on my own. I'm going to go out without help. I'm just going to do this by myself.
Yeah.
How much would it cost from starting until the first resident occupies?
It ranges, and I hate that answer. It depends, right?
I mean,
But it does.
I've learned that it depends is probably a more honest answer than a specific answer.
It is because, like, okay, so the 4 routes I said you could get started. We talked about buying an existing. When you're buying an existing, you need the capital to buy the home, buy the real estate. And then the time frame on that is probably 3 to 6 months for that purchase, right?
Yeah.
But you're up and running, cash flowing day 1. If you're going to buy a single family home, that's the acquisition of the real estate, the renovation, building that business. And I always like to bake in at least 2 months of carrying costs. because I want to give you time to get that business up and running. That could take you 6 months to a year, depending on how much renovation needs to happen. The third way to get started is leasing a home for this. So you work with someone who's already owning the home, has already retrofit the home, and you're going to lease it from them. Now you just need money to start that up, right? Whatever origination costs they want to include in that, but then your carrying costs, because now it's time to go. You got to fill those beds.
Yeah.
And then the fourth way is buying land and building custom from the ground up. So we have a lot of students who've done that.
Really?
Yeah. Especially our contractor students, like in the Midwest and stuff, or states where you're allowed to have 16 residents. Because to get a single family home up to 16 bed, 16 bath,
it's a major remodel.
You might as well. You might as well. So a lot of our students like to do that when they're in states where you can have 12, 14, or 16, and they'll just buy land, build custom from the ground up. I've seen that take as little as a year, and I've seen it take up to 3 years. So it really ranges on time frame and then as well as cost. But at least 2 months carrying costs, I think, is safe and comfortable if you're going to start that pre-marketing.
Got it. Okay. And then we're going to get to the questions in a little bit, but I wanted to ask you, so one of the things you put here is that you built 8 companies over the last 7 years?
Yeah.
So I've been accused, I believe wrongly, of having shiny object syndrome.
Okay.
Okay, it's probably true. So building 8 companies over 7 years, that's not a small feat.
No.
So what are these companies, and like how is that possible?
Yeah, so we started with the concept of the Impact Housing Group, which really just frames around, we want to create housing and teach people how to use housing to make an impact. Making money is cool, but affecting people, changing lives, impacting people is the coolest thing that you could ever do. So it's kind of started with, at home with my own grandmother needing this, and Residential Assisted Living Academy started. Impact Housing Group's kind of that overarching company that teaches and trains on all different types of housing that makes an impact. So we also have a company, Recovery Housing Academy, that teaches on clean, sober recovery homes, those who are justice involved, foster kids who've gotten kicked out after 18, all sorts of different types of recovery that people need housing for. We also have the AL Network, which is basically just informational resource from podcasts and blogs and information basically on everything assisted living. We have the RAL National Association. It is the only association for all 30,000 care home owners across the country. When we got into this industry, no one was there for us.
Yeah.
The big boxes, they run this, and they have a lot more money and power than all of these small care home owners do. And we were like, we need to create something to represent these people, give them a voice in the industry. So we have a team of lawyers who's there to help people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and really fight for our rights as small care home owners. So we represent all 30,000 of the 16 and under beds across our country today. The National Convention, which just happened last weekend, is our large annual convention for all of those care home owners, where we're bringing them together, celebrating them, and really just honoring the journey that they have. I'm trying to think of what else. Pitch Masters Academy. We teach and train people how to pitch. I'm sure Dad talked to you about that.
Yeah, he did.
That's a fun one, because a lot of times people who come to us, they say, well, this is going to cost a lot of money. And I need to raise capital, and I don't know how to do that. I've never done that. And so, my dad was an incredible public speaker and wanted to impart that knowledge on other people of how to pitch to raise money, how to get people to invest in you and your ideas.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all the companies that are coming to my head right now. But
yeah, that's incredible. So, and then you were the integrator for all of these?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've seen all the different parts of all the different businesses.
Yeah.
Got it. So what was that like?
My dad and I had the best dynamic ever. He was such an incredible visionary that he would just come with an idea and basically just spout it out. Like, I'm thinking this, and it's going to look like this and feel like this, and this is who's going to come. And I'd be like, okay, put it all down, poke all the holes, come back to him with, this is how much time it's going to take. This is who's going to be involved. This is how much it's going to cost. These are the red flags I see, and here's the successes I see. Do you still want to do this? Mm-hmm. And we just worked so well in that way together.
That's awesome.
And so I think that really manifested something in me that, when you go to school, I went to ASU, and it's like, I didn't know what I really wanted to do. Double major, double minor, doing a bunch of school. But I had no real direction, no real vision. I didn't know how to use my God-given skills to do something that meant something. And then finally working with him, it was like, oh my gosh, this is my skill, is taking someone else's idea, bringing it to fruition, and presenting it to the world as a true, real thing in business. So we just worked so seamlessly in that way together. So now I'm integrator / visionary, and I've rehired myself as integrator. I've got a great team now who handles that all for me. So now I'm learning to tap into that creative side of myself and throw ideas at my team to drive them crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of, when you're trying to come up with ideas, that's kind of our responsibility, right?
Yes.
And it sounds kind of crazy. And I got a chance to meet your dad,
Yeah.
I got a chance to see him speak at CG, but I didn't really get to connect with him. And then we're both in Family Mastermind.
Yeah.
And he was in there, and that's when I actually got to finally connect with him.
Yeah.
And he actually, we got our book, right? Active Listening 2.0. And I was like, hey, let me give you this book. Tell me what you think of it, check it out. And not only did he review the book, he told me, like, okay, you should change that title. I was like, give me a better title. I was like, okay, that's a much better title. But then he also suggested some other NLP books that were really helpful and instrumental for me for a sales trainer. So, I mean, he was really impactful for myself. And then I remember, one of his last presentations at Family Mastermind, I think probably his last presentation at Family Mastermind, was talking about how to leave an effective legacy, and I shared this with somebody because he passed away last year.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think, there were two people that passed away last year that I personally knew from COVID, and he was one of them. And in watching his video, talking about, how to leave an effective legacy for your family, like, it really connected with me. It's like, man, like, that guy actually did.
Yeah.
We all talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone talks about the reason why they get into business is more time freedom, more financial freedom, and leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
But he actually did it.
Yeah.
Right? So he talked about how he was intentional with it, how he was able to do it. And it was pretty cool to watch it all come into fruition. The other thing that, your family is a model for us was that we had Gary Harper, right?
Yeah.
So we had Gary Harper and Susan Harper.
Yeah.
They've consulted with us and helped us kind of like structure everything.
Yeah.
And I remember the very first meeting, I think it was probably like in the first 3-4 hours, he's like, you know what? With what you guys are doing, you guys should copy the Guarinos. And to which I said, who are the Guarinos? Right?
Yeah.
But as we were talking about this offline before we started, it's like, oh yeah, like what you guys are doing is exactly the direction I want to go, where we have an umbrella company that has the CFO, that has the chief marketing officer, right? We have the CTO, and they run all of the companies.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's definitely something I want to do. And it sounds like that's what you guys did with Impact Housing Group to have all these other companies, one holding company or one umbrella company that has all the C-level suites or C-level executives, and they drive all the other companies.
Correct.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah,
all right. So we want to answer the questions, but before we get into the questions, let's take a quick commercial break, and then we'll answer all the questions. Hey, Steve Trang here. A lot of you have been asking me for sales management training. I didn't feel quite right teaching it, but I found the perfect guy to teach it for us. So, Ren, tell us about it.
Steve, we're going to be introducing some really intense fundamentals and philosophy behind the management of sales teams. Have a ton of experience building really high performance sales teams and really taking a little bit of this and a little bit of that, management practices and theories from all over the place, and brought them together to create a unique whole person perspective that drives low performers to high performers and elite caliber salespeople into sales champions. And couldn't be more excited to partner with you on it and the Sales Disruptors brand.
For sure. So go to disruptors.com/success and we'll see you at the event.
We understand that you want to be a successful real estate investor. To do that, you need consistent, predictable revenue. The problem is your salespeople may be unreliable and bring in inconsistent sales, which makes you feel defeated at times and some level of self-doubt. We believe that people should be able to manage themselves. We understand how aggravating it can be when you take all the risk, but you're the bad guy when they don't get paid. We've hired hundreds of salespeople, leveled up multiple executive directors, and managed teams across multiple states, leading to 100+ transactions per month. Here's how to do it. Step 1, attend our live event. Step 2, join me on regular support calls. And step 3, build out a success plan for coaching your salespeople. So go to disruptors.com/success. And in the meantime, follow me and Steve Trang on Instagram, consume all of our free content, and schedule a call with our team so you can stop the revolving door of salespeople that leave and compete against you. And instead, build a high-performance company with your salespeople that accomplish their goals, enabling you to fulfill your company's purpose. We understand that you want to be a successful real estate investor. To do that, you need...
So going to the questions here, the first question is on YouTube from Guarino, Karina206. So this about RAL, is this RAL inside of single-family housing?
Correct. So residential homes being used for assisted living. Yep.
Okay. Do you do anything else or only single-family?
We only do residential homes, so only single-family homes, nothing commercial.
Got it. And another question from YouTube. This is Vasily Marmol. Would Sacramento be a great fit for this type of opportunity?
Potentially in the more suburban areas of Sacramento. I know the cost of living is insanely expensive out there, but there is a lot of daughter Judys out there, a lot of 50 to 70-year-olds, upper middle class, and there's a lot of need. So definitely, we do have a lot of Northern California students, and you can make it happen. In California, unfortunately, you're limited to 6 residents in a home. It is one of the lower states, but the cost of real estate's expensive in California. So getting a 5-bed, 4-bath, that's doable. You know, here in Arizona, you're not going to find a 10-bed, 10-bath. You're going to have to create something. Over there, you're not going to have to do nearly as much renovation. It might just be adding more, you know, ramps and guardrails and making it senior safe instead of this massive addition. So that helps combat the cost of expensive real estate.
With it being capped at 6, can
Yeah.
you charge more in California?
Exactly. The rates in California, pretty much at the state rate, average, right, is about $5,300 per month. And again, we focus on only above average. So most of my California people are getting 7, 8, even upwards of $9,000 a month per resident.
Yeah. So you can't get as many doors or many rooms, but you can still get probably close to comparable cash flow.
Correct. Also, the fact that we also teach on memory care because you're going to deal with it no matter what, right? I forgot where my keys were this morning. Like, we all have memory care issues. When someone needs memory care, it's an additional $1,000 to $1,500 more per month that each resident's paying because the level of licensing is a little higher. The physical requirements on the home are a little bit more. And the caregivers have even a higher level of licensing. So if you live in a state where you can only have 6, 7, or 8 residents, I always do recommend doing memory care.
Got it. You know, I forgot earlier, we're talking about getting started. So buying the house and everything else, like all in, like, let's say I'm doing this in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Right. I have to buy, because as investment, I'm going to put 20% down typically.
It depends because you could use someone else's money. You
Right.
could JV partner for this. You could do 25% down. You could buy the house outright. There's so many different ways. But yeah, let's just say you did.
So because it's investment, I'm going to have to
Put
more down.
Yep.
And then out of pocket for everything else, we're talking not a lot of overhead, right? For everything else, except for the marketing and your licensed administrator.
And you're carrying costs. So just
carrying
like
costs.
having at least, if we're saying it's going to cost $30,000 a month to do this, then I would want to have like at least 60 or 70 just in cushion money for those first couple months, as we're not 100% full yet.
Okay, because the expenses don't change,
Correct.
just the revenue.
Correct. Because
Got
I
it.
might still be paying for that staff and paying for that cable and utilities and whatever, you know.
Yeah, got it. Okay. So then, next question here from Jennifer Hudson.
Jennifer Hudson.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite professional association for this industry?
Professional association?
I'm guessing probably the one that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I would say RAL, National Association. So I think in the show notes, they'll have like a bunch of links, but RALNA.org, RALNA.org is the association for all 30,000 of these care home owners. It's the only one that exists. So that is my favorite.
Yeah, well, that makes total sense. And I mean, you're competing against like the giant organization, so you do need to band together.
Oh yeah, we got to come together as a team. So
Yeah.
it's important.
Then they have an association. Yeah, so I think that's the same thing, right? That's your association.
Yeah.
Next question from Vasily is, can you do this in a gated community?
More than likely, yes. So I will say this. An HOA may have rules that, hey, no businesses in this neighborhood, right? First of all, if there's an HOA and then there's a neighborhood right next door without an HOA, pick the neighborhood without the HOA, right? Yeah. I don't know why people choose problems. But if you have to choose an HOA neighborhood, that is all that exists in your area, then it is what it is. First note, not all HOAs are created equal. Some cost $11 a month and some cost hundreds of dollars a month. Mm-hmm. So there's always different rules. Read those rules, know the codes and covenants, but also note this. The Federal Fair Housing Act is a federal law that says it's discriminatory against disabled persons to not allow them to have housing. So that is a federal law. It trumps any city, state, angry neighbor, HOA, county, you name it, we win. Mm-hmm. So, and we've used it time and time again with that legal power through the National Association. I'm not saying they're not going to fight you. They might fight you tooth and nail, but they're going to lose because it's a federal law and they need to make reasonable accommodations. Also, more than likely, the guy who's running the HOA or gal who's running the HOA is usually a realtor, a broker, an accountant, someone who works from home. So, we can't have my business, but you can have your business? I don't think so.
Right.
We have a lot of fun in those HOA meetings, making sure that if we're going to get shut down, so is everyone else in this neighborhood, right?
So you're coming in guns blazing.
Guns blazing, baby.
Yeah. I love it. And it's a good point, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, yeah, I get it. We won't run any businesses here, so.
All of y'all too.
Yeah. All right, and then and that's a good question because the gated community, I don't jump to HOA. I just jump into like
nice.
Why does gated matter? But yeah, HOA, it's I always consider the very extremely fascist organization.
Yeah.
And when I used to do foreclosures, I used to list properties for Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, whatever. HOAs were constantly the bane of my existence.
Yeah.
And they always acted like they ran the show. It's like, buddy, like you just work in HOA. Like it's just
just volunteered for this.
Yeah, just calm down a little bit there. Dexter says, yeah, it's like the universe is telling me something. He's been watching you and your dad for the last 6 months.
Oh, thanks for watching.
Yeah. So Mr. Smartbucks. So goes back to my question earlier. How many bathrooms are needed per resident?
Yeah, so your state will have very bare minimum requirements. Most states will say like for every 6 people, 1 bathroom. That is not good. So definitely as many private as you can, as many private bathrooms as you can. Even if every room could have a half bath or a 3/4 bath, that's still something, Mm-hmm. So I like to have as many as possible because when daughter Judy's coming to tour, one of the big things she's thinking of is privacy. I want mom to have her own room. Mom is leaving her own house to come live in a room. She needs her own bathroom. She needs a closet. She needs her own TV in case she wants to watch her show. Privacy is key. So the more bedrooms and bathrooms you can have, the better.
Especially you're talking about we're discussing earlier premiums.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Karina's question: would you say the same for Texas? I know that many of the snowbirds choose Arizona and Florida. So I guess this is probably in the context we were discussing earlier. Arizona, Florida, 1 and 2 for retirement.
Yeah.
Is Texas one of those states? Do you know?
Texas has a lot of these homes, and there are a lot of people. Okay, I'll say this. Raise your hand if you're aging or know someone who is. Right?
Right.
Okay, people are aging everywhere. And just because you turn 85 doesn't mean you move to Florida or Arizona. First of all, people usually move at 65, not 85. If you've lived in Charleston, South Carolina your whole life, you're not going to pick up and move at 90 just because people have assisted living in Arizona. There is need for this everywhere in every market. And I also want to note this. With 3,000 homes in Maricopa County, I've got some competition, right? I've got to stand out. We created the first RAL home in the state of Rhode Island with one of our students, Mandy, and she has a waiting list out the wazoo. The state is begging her to open more because she's one of one. The only other options are big box facilities.
Yeah.
So just because a state has a lot of seniors or a lot of these exist doesn't necessarily mean that that's where you want to do it. You might prefer a state that maybe has some more hoops to jump through, but there's way less competition. And so you're going to be full at all times.
So this is a question I asked your dad
Yeah.
years ago. I'll ask you the same question. As a real estate investor, wouldn't having a residential assisted living facility be a lead source for buying houses?
Yes.
Yeah. So, because I was like, hey, like, Gene, like, send me some referrals here. He's like, I can't. I was like, why not? He's like, I just can't do it. I was like,
There's a lot of people, most of those people who are moving in, they're trying to get rid of their own home. So yes, you could play both sides of that. There's entire companies that do that. They basically seek out the seniors who are ready for assisted living, and they help take care of the noun of assisted living, the person, place, and things. And they will help place you in an assisted living home. So partnering with people who work for companies like that, or if you yourself are a realtor or a real estate investor and just want to buy more properties, you could play on both ends of this for sure.
yep. So then, follow-up question from Vasily is, how are you standing out from your competition then? You know, you got 3,000.
Yes. So I think that just being a step above everybody else, making sure that every time you walk in that home, that it smells great, it feels great, it's good energy, right? Like, we want to make sure that our home has things that not everybody else has. So let's just say, for example, if you live in a state where no one else, none of the surrounding homes have a private chef, I'd put a private chef. That's how you stand out. If everyone has a private chef, you also need a private chef, right? So it goes the same both ways, but doing something that makes your home a little different. Our staff always talks about doing niche homes. So there's a home here in Arizona called Shalom Home. You don't have to be Jewish to live there, but it sure caters to them and makes them feel nice and comfortable in that environment. And they're right near the JCC. And so a lot of people who are from the Jewish community, they want their loved one to go live in that home.
Right.
You can do all sorts of niche homes, women only, men only, different cultures, different ethnicities, different languages, because a lot of seniors who speak 2 languages, when you get older, you start reverting back to your native tongue. And so if you live in a population where there's a heavy Latino culture, you may want to do a home where all your caregivers speak both Spanish and English, or whatever the case may be. And you have that music, you have that culture. And that might be something that makes you stand out, because everyone else who's running this is just caring about, okay, just care and get it done. But doing those little features, those little things to make yourself stand out. It could be a keto home, a vegan home. I mean, whatever you want, the options are endless.
Right. So very, very niche specific. And it makes me think like Airbnb, like that's what a lot of Airbnbs are doing right now. Like, not only does it have a theme, it has a name.
Yeah.
Right.
The hideaway house.
Yeah. Like, parts of me wants to roll my eyes, but part of me understands this, what has to happen. Well, as far as the Airbnb,
I want to stay at them. Are you joking? They're getting me with the names, with the
so
themes.
they're getting you. So you might be a little more sentimental than myself, right?
Yeah, I want to stay in Barbie's dream house, Airbnb, whatever it is.
Yeah. See, whenever I'm traveling, all I need is a bed. Right. I just need a bed.
Hotels are for you.
Hotels. I need a bed I can sleep through the night. That's the biggest challenge whenever I travel is sleeping on a bed that
comfy
allows me to sleep through the night. I don't know what it is. Like, I sleep wonderfully at home, but man, traveling is.
Yeah.
Can I get the same
rough.
sleep?
It can be rough.
Yeah. So, guys, if you have any other questions, please fire away. So, what are some of the biggest challenges you're facing right now?
You know, I think as far as the homes go, I would say the biggest challenges right now is staffing, right? Over the last 2 years, the Great Resignation, we have all these people leaving this industry. Being a caregiver is hard work. And they're only getting paid minimum wage plus a couple dollars an hour. So, you know, usually, depending on your area, less than $20 an hour.
Wow.
That's not a lot. And it's hard work. About 80% of this industry is run by immigrants from other countries. And they are incredible workers, and they are some of the kindest and nicest and best people I've ever met. But it's also difficult for them, and it's difficult to find people who fit your culture. I always say slow to hire, quick to fire. If anything goes wrong, it's like zero tolerance policy. These are people's lives at stake. This isn't just like, oh, whoops, I posted the wrong thing on social media. No. This could be someone's life or death. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we want to make sure that everyone is in the absolute best hands. These daughter Judys are trusting you with their loved one's life, and you need to treat every interaction like that. So, I think staffing's always going to be a challenge in this industry, but particularly over the last couple of years, anybody in the medical industry who dealt with COVID, God bless you. And that was a very difficult, 2-3 years. I watched friends just have mental breakdowns from, being in the hospital environment. And it was tough for our caregivers too. So I think staffing for sure.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So let's see, what are some other questions here? So let's talk about your family, right?
Yeah.
So it's, it's a family business.
Now it is, yes.
So talk about that. Talk
Yeah.
about what it's like working with a family, or working
Yeah.
with your family.
Yes, so I pushed my way in, as I shared in the beginning, and really became my dad's first hire, his first, employee. And then one of my brothers, he was a realtor, and he asked my dad, like, hey, what can I do to help you in this? How can I use my skills to help you with this? So he started buying and selling RALs because the transaction's a little bit different than just your typical, regular rental or single family home. This is a very sentimental industry to a lot of people. And because so many of these owners are mom and pop owners who do work in the homes, it's like they're selling their baby. Like, it's very emotional, and the process can take a while. So he became the #1 realtor in Arizona, buying and selling these, working with a lot of our students and doing that. So he works in that regard with us. My sister became our CFO over time, and she's absolutely incredible. Love working with her. We, on a personal side, we totally did not get along growing up, but now we get along better than ever, So I think in a weird way, the business has brought us really close.
That's
and,
cool.
and given us something to talk about and to bond over, and just really something so fun. My youngest brother, he always wanted to be an orthodontist, and we were like, he's not going to work with us. And then just last year, he started working with us, and it's been so wonderful. My mom is now our principal owner. As everything got passed to her, we have, I've worked with mother-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, cousins, uncles, mom, dad, brother, sister. It's been a blast all the way through.
Can't be easy all the time, though.
Can't be easy all the time. I think that the biggest thing is having everything laid out, contracts, right? People say don't work with friends and family. Who does that leave? Enemies and strangers? Like, no, I love my friends and family. That's the other thing. We don't just hire family. I hire a ton of friends. I love working with my friends, because when I'm at work, we're talking about work stuff, and then we're like, oh, you want to go do that cycle class later today? Like, because we're friends, we hang out outside of this. And it just makes, to be honest, life so much more pleasurable, because I enjoy talking to these people. They're a part of my everyday life. It's almost like, I don't know, growing up on a farm, you imagine it's a family culture, everyone's doing it, and you're doing this work together, but you're bonding over it. And of course, there's going to be disagreements and stuff, but it's that work-life balance all in one. And I want to show up and chat with people who I want to talk to every day. So I really like that.
That's awesome. Dexter's follow-up question is, how important is the city that your home is located in?
The city, so location is the #1 key, right? Making sure that those demographics are correct, making sure that there's density in the area, and that the home is located properly, absolutely key.
So not a small town.
Not a small town. We definitely want a larger population,
Is there a population target?
not necessarily, but I would say, like, I don't know, like no less than 30,000 people. Like, I wouldn't necessarily go for a small town. I also wouldn't go for like San Francisco, that's not going to work. There's no, there are residential homes there, but they're nice and long and tall, and they're not what we're looking for. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then best type of loan you recommend when you're closing on a facility?
Great question. A lot of our students use SBA. That's super, super popular in this, and they really know and like what we do with residential assisted living. So we have preferred vendors that we send a lot of our students to, because they're like, we get it, we know it, we're happy to lend on this. In our training, we also go over private money, hard money, bank loans, crowdfunding, and then syndication, because a lot of people want to invest in this, but they don't know how, and they don't know who to trust or what to do. So we really teach heavily on syndicating these deals.
Syndication is pretty fascinating
Yeah.
because you have to be an accredited investor.
Yeah.
typically.
typically.
And usually most investments require at least 100,000, maybe 50,000 on the lower side.
Yeah.
So how much are these syndications raising?
It could be a couple million. I've seen like one of our students out in Tennessee, they raised 3 million because it was for the home, the reno, the carrying costs, paying themselves. You know what I mean? And they did at least 3. I've seen it as low as 500 up to 3.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not expect those numbers for residential assisted living.
Yeah.
So what is your why?
Oh, my why, this whole thing started with my grandmother. And then when my dad passed, it really became about me carrying his legacy forward. I, of course, was so sad to lose my dad and my best friend. But he left me the biggest blessing that I think anyone could ever leave their kids, which is a legacy. He taught me everything that I could ever need and want to know about this. And he left me cash flowing businesses. He left me assets, not money in the bank, businesses that change lives, that impact people, and that I knew what I was doing with them. It wasn't just like, oh my God, he's gone. What do we do?
Yeah.
And it clicked in me like, I'm surrounded by a bunch of incredible real estate investors who don't have any plan of how to get this to the next generation. They're doing awesome, but they have no idea how to pass this to their kids.
Right.
And so it's my mission and my why to teach as many people as I can how to create this as a family legacy, as a lasting legacy to pass from generation to generation. And I really think that's what drives me every day.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, right? I can see the passion in your eyes. And I think that's one of those things that's so, like, again, we all say time freedom, financial freedom,
Yeah.
and legacy, but then our actions don't always line up with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then how do you measure success?
Oh, that's so tough because I'm a perfectionist, so it's never enough. But I think success would be you have to measure it internally and externally. Internally, there is a feeling in your heart and soul where you just know like what I'm doing is right and what the path I'm headed down or what I accomplished that ticked something in you. And I think that you do need to have that internal like motivation and goal to be able to see success. I did this. I accomplished this. I also think it's partially external. You need other people to recognize what you did and see that, hey, what you're doing is awesome, and shout you out for that. I don't think even if something's a success to you, if no one's there along the ride with you to point it out or say that you're doing incredible, it doesn't feel as accomplished. It doesn't feel as successful. So I think it's a little internal and external.
Makes sense. And what is your superpower?
I was thinking about this on the drive over here because I know you always ask this one. I think that I am highly efficient. I use my time very well. I'm very organized. I do not make excuses for anything. It's like we have 1,000 things to accomplish today. We're accomplishing 1,000 things. There's no room for error.
Really?
So yeah, I'm very, very, very efficient and organized, and just fast and focused. I feel like that is by far one of my greatest superpowers.
That's awesome. And what's the greatest lesson you've learned?
I think the greatest lesson that I've learned would be that, a lot of people ask me like, oh, did your dad teach you all of this? He never sat down and taught me anything. I learned it all through watching him. And I think that's so important because we say it a lot, like with kids, like in relation to kids, like they're not going to do what you say, they're going to do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I literally did that as an adult with him, you
Yeah.
know? He didn't teach me how to speak. He didn't teach me how to come on this show with you, do anything. I just watched him do it and was like, I'm going to do what he does.
Right.
I think that's so important to be conscious of, that everyone around you, from your kids to your employees to just everyone in your life, they are watching you and they're going to do what you do if you are a mentor or a coach to them. And I think that's just really important to note and to carry forward. And I think it's been one of the greatest things for me going forward is just being conscious of that and watching my behaviors and my actions to make sure that they're things I want everyone to pass on and carry on.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the best lessons I learned was you're always on stage.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, right? Like it doesn't matter how you demonstrate or exhibit when the cameras are on and when
Correct.
things are good,
Yeah.
right? What matters is how you carry yourself when things are bad,
Yeah.
right? When things aren't going your way,
Yeah.
then one of the other things I remember learning, right? Like, how can you expect your employees to provide excellent customer service to their clients when they screw up? When in the situations that they screw up, you lose it on them.
Yep. Yep. Oh my gosh, 100%.
Yeah. What is your favorite, best, or most interesting failure?
Oh, my most interesting failure. I think I would say probably the first time that I had watched my dad speak for years, and he was an excellent speaker, excellent salesman, excellent presenter. And at this one event we were at, we worked so hard to fill this room. We worked so hard. There's probably 150 people in there. No one bought. It was an egg, right? And we were just like, oh my gosh. And in that moment, I didn't realize he was teaching me something, because I didn't think I was ever going to speak. But he just, at that night, we went out, we got some wine, we got dinner, and he's like, it happens. And we get up tomorrow and we do it again. Mm-hmm. And the first time I spoke and I got an egg and got 0 sales, it was just like, this is an epic failure. This cost our team money. This cost us energy. This cost me time. And I think it was just so like, I can sit here and pout and complain and cry and be sad and be in this moment, or I can say, let's get up and do it again. Yeah. And again, I didn't know that I was learning a lesson in that, but that failure really just taught me, like, sometimes it doesn't work out and it's okay. You get up and keep moving.
You got to have short-term memory.
Short-term memory.
And then let's see, we got a couple other questions here. Have you looked into childcare or adoption homes?
I do really want to do, I've never done like daycare, right, for children. I think they're talking about children. I've never done that, but I really do in Impact Housing Group, one of the types of homes that we really want to teach and train on once we crack the code for it. I don't do anything that we don't also do, but is home for developmentally disabled adults. So those with autism, who are older, and when their parents pass on, who's going to take care of them? I think that's a really, really important thing. So I don't know that I'll do daycare, but I do think we will get into that industry probably in the coming years. Big need there.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because that was the next question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do you have homes for those with disabilities who are no longer with family?
Yeah, it's a big need. And a lot of people come to our training and say, I want to come learn everything I can to try to apply it in that way. And I always tell them, it's not exact, but take what you can. And if you crack the code, come and tell me and we'll do it. But big need there. And I really want to be able to help in that way.
Yeah. And last question from me is, what book have you gifted more than any other?
The number one book actually that I gift, it's not a self-promo book, it's a real book that I'm obsessed with, is called The 5 a.m. Club. Mm-hmm. Have you read it?
I haven't read it. I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
Because the guy has a 5 a.m. call every day, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
So great book. And it's basically just, it's kind of like, I don't know if it's fictional or nonfiction, but it feels fictional. It's like storytelling.
Yeah, it's like a fable.
Yeah. But, it's just about like getting up, grabbing the bull by its horn, living your life to the fullest, stop making excuses, go for stuff, which is very just my energy, my vibe. So I love it. And I always give it to people and be like, get up at 5 a.m. And when I start calling you at 6 a.m., stop complaining.
Yeah. I do get up at 5 a.m. every day. It's not because I want to.
Yep.
It's just the only way I'm going to
get stuff done.
It's the only way I can get the things I want to get done in the day. So what, someone wants to find out more about this, like where do they go?
Yeah, so I think we're going to put links in the notes, but RAL 101 is a great place to grab free information. There's webinars and books and podcasts, but RAL Academy, and you guys can follow us on any social. We're on Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok. Follow me there. I follow you. I love your stuff on TikTok.
Thank you.
We're having a lot of fun there. So yeah, anything on social would be great. And then I'm sure we'll put all the websites.
Yeah, that's, we have that link right there.
There we go. RAL 101. Follow us there.
Awesome. So I'm going to make a couple of quick announcements. So think about what you want to leave the listeners with.
Okay.
Guys, if you have value today, please like, subscribe, share, a comment. I'm asking you guys to do this. It helps us accomplish our mission. And then, like we said earlier, Ren Bartlett and I were doing our sales leadership training. I think right now, more than any other, it's really important that you do take good care shepherding your salespeople. It's really easy right now to say, oh, the market's slow, we're just going to sell less. Well, they have a purpose, they have a goal, they're trying to accomplish certain things, and if you neglect them, there's nothing going to keep them attached to you. So you got to effectively lead and manage your salespeople, and Ren Bartlett is the guy to talk about how to do that effectively, especially in a market that's going down. So what last thoughts would you like to leave everybody with?
I think that obviously so many of your listeners are real estate investors or, getting into this industry. And I think that no matter what role that you want to play in this industry, it's really important that you're doing something that is going to change your world, your community's world, and anybody like that. So investing with an impact is something that I want everybody to start considering as an option to add to their portfolio, whether it's RAL or something else. Just do something that changes the community, changes the world, and causes a big splash, causes an impact.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and I think that's kind of like we all get into it initially for money.
Yeah.
Right, and then we get to it for more time. But yeah, the impact is when it turns from something that you want to do, to something where it's passionate and fulfilling, and like everything is just better.
Yep. Our company motto is to do good and do well.
Yeah.
Because making money's good, but making an impact can't beat it. So I
Exactly.
love that.
All right. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Shout out to Steve Trang. Jump on the Steve Trang. We real estate disruptors.